Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's event. I am so excited to have you all joining for the last event at Women Thrive Media. My name is Ramonda Jan, and I am the founder at Women Thrive Media. And today we have an incredible panel hosted by some of our speakers from the Women Thrive Summit. Today we're talking on the topic of You're Not Stuck, and the power lies in the choice you are avoiding. I'm so excited to be joined by incredible speakers from the Women Thrive Summit today. And actually, I will not be your host today because we have our incredible speakers hosting this panel today. So we are being joined today by Crystal Harley, Dawn Gordon, Kylie Van Leen, Dr. Sola Togun Butler, Shatali Desai, and our panel is hosted by Melissa Rose and Crystal Jugar. So I would love to invite my panelists to the stage today to host this incredible event. And for all of you joining us today, please do make sure you interact in a chat box, ask questions, and engage, because I think today's conversation is going to be super incredible for all of you. So you will be walking away with some value, inspiration, and of course, meeting some new people. So can I ask for my team to bring up some speakers to come to today's show? Hello, Crystal. Good to see you.
Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever everyone is tuning in from. Thank you so much, Ray, for introing us and for allowing us to be here today. I am so honored to be a co-host as part of the panel. So as everyone is joining us on the screen, I will just share with everyone that is tuning in what we're going to be doing here today. We are so excited for you to be joining us as we explore how to make impactful choices that empower you without having to change your whole world around. So you're going to walk away having learned the power of shifting your mindset to really focus on opportunity rather than obligation. We'll look at what constraints you may be facing in your life right now, and together we will uncover all of those small steps you can take away to ignite a feeling of empowerment. Because maybe now is the time to shift how you view change and choice. What if making change doesn't mean that you need to change or lose anything that you hold near and dear to your heart? In a world of such diversity and complexity, we're going to look at how we can embrace the colorful shades of gray and move beyond the black and white thinking. So really quick, my name again is Crystal Jugar, as Ray introduced me. I am the founder of 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵 and Empowered by Women. And our values really are women empowerment, community over competition, and giving back. And my mission is just to remind everyone out there that you are so worthy and capable of creating a life that you love. So this is absolutely my wheelhouse. I'm so excited to be here and to share this stage with these ladies. We will be joined shortly by our co-host, Melissa Rose, who is an applied functional medicine practitioner specializing in autoimmune disease, complex illness, mystery illness, and rare autoimmune conditions. With over 1,000 clients served, she's established herself as a high-level practitioner for advanced autoimmune clients at Sagebrush Wellness and autoimmunerecovery.org. So me and Melissa will be your co-hosts today, but now diving into our panelists a little bit more before we dive into the questions. Let's start with the other Crystal. Crystal Hurley is a confidence and dating coach on a mission to empower single women in their pursuit of lasting love through cultivating healthy relationships with themselves and others. We have the amazing Shatali, who is a business and success mentor on a mission to assist female entrepreneurs and high achievers in amplifying their voice, igniting their fire, and breaking through societal conditioning to becoming unapologetically empowered. We have Dawn, who's a licensed counselor and founder of the Image Shift Coaching Program. She helps heart-centered professionals consciously create a life of happiness, joy, and ease by shifting into a positive self-image so that they end the trance of unworthiness and live the life that they love. Dr. Sola is the founder of Transformative Coaching and Consulting. She offers a coaching program that empowers women to go from burnout to balance by using realistic self-care toolkits that fit their busy schedules. And then last but certainly not least, the amazing Kylie, who is the founder of Elevated Coaching and Consulting Global. She supports women in identifying and addressing their limiting beliefs, shifting their mindset, and developing skills to reach their full potential and thrive. So we are truly blessed to be graced by the presence of all of these amazing women that are just doing such amazing things out there in the world. If you are tuning in now, please be sure to screenshot it, take a photo with your phone, as of course our goal is to impact as many women as possible, and then tag whoever it is that you're connected with on the panel, as well as the Women Thrive Media and Women Thrive Summit. We really want you to get the most out of this panel. So as our experts are talking and thoughts start coming into your mind, of course, don't hesitate to start dropping comments and questions in the chat, and we will try our best to get to them as we can. I don't know if Melissa has quite joined us just yet, but no worries at all. Before we dive into the questions, I just want to have everyone just take a second and really think about how much control you think you have over your life. Have the decisions that you've been making really been your own decisions? Or were they because of expectations put on you, or maybe the way you were raised or conditioned? We're going to be diving into this idea of socialization and obligation. And hopefully our goal is to leave you with actionable steps that you can take away today to really start feeling empowered, take your power back. And with that said, let's go ahead and dive into this panel. Dr. Sola, we're going to go ahead and start with you. Can you break down this concept of socialization for us? What is that?
Sure. When I break down the concept, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, how do you know what you know? And that is basically a definition of socialization. So it means that we have internalized a lot of the ideologies, the norms, the expectations of our society in terms of how we should behave. Because sometimes when we think about socialization, people think about being social or maybe going out. This particular definition is about how society gives us certain messages that we internalize and the impact that those messages do have on us. So as a coach that works with women, it's addressing the fact that women have received messages related to gender roles. So women may believe or been taught to believe that they shouldn't set healthy boundaries. They should always be present for others. They shouldn't say no. They should put their needs last. Everybody else's needs come first. So socialization is really looking at the message that you have internalized based on your society, your culture, and the impact that that has on you in terms of your physical health, your emotional health, and your mental health as well, because those messages are constantly around us and they do impact us.
That's such a great explanation. And that really does play into where obligation stems from, right? Because we've grown up with all of these thoughts already kind of put into our minds. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Crystal. With all of this obligation that we've kind of grown up feeling, where does this concept of choice start coming into play? You're on mute, Crystal.
I'm the first one to not unmute my mic. I was saying that obligation means we have a sense of responsibility. Obligation is the idea that we have to do it. And recognizing that there still is, it's still ultimately a decision. And it's often that we don't want the consequences of a different decision, but acknowledging that that other decision exists, that is where our power lies, such as saying no. You know, we say yes to so much because it's often more comfortable, or we are socialized to do so. There is still the option to say no, but what consequences do we think there are, or what discomfort would we feel if we said no? So that's where choice still lies within obligation.
I'll pass it over to you, Kylie. I'm curious your thoughts on this as well. Is there anything more that you can elaborate on when it comes to, shifting the focus from obligation, starting to shift your focus towards opportunity instead?
Absolutely. And going on from what Crystal and Dr. Solar have just said, I think it's really important for people attending today and listening to remember that they're in control of how they choose, and I underline that word choose, how they choose to perceive every situation. So when we talk about focusing on opportunity over obligation, what I mean by that is that our perception shapes our mindset, and it really does determine the actions or the inaction that we take. So by choosing to see things as happening for us, we can find opportunities in any obligation and really build the life that we want. Viewing life through the lens of opportunity rather than obligation opens up a whole new world of possibilities and opportunities. And it allows us as human beings to see the challenges and chances for growth and transformation, which then in turn fosters that proactive and empowered mindset. So people listening today, embracing opportunities, even when it's in really difficult situations, it means that we can chart a course towards personal empowerment. And the example that I like to give when I'm talking about focusing on opportunity rather than obligation or over obligation is as we come to a new year and we all start making, those fitness and health goals and New Year's resolutions. It's when you're thinking about fitness and nutrition, perhaps, or a new regime for the new year, changing the focus from obligation to opportunity is focusing on things like attaining a healthy life, which brings you things like more energy, renewed energy, longevity, hopefully, and ultimately happiness. So the long-term benefits of a healthier lifestyle outweigh the short-term obligation of things like healthy eating, going to the gym, moving our bodies, exercising, and things like that. So instead of perceiving change as negative obligations, really, as we move into this new year, it's a perfect opportunity to focus on the positive opportunities that some of that hard work and obligation can bring. So ultimately, your mindset really does shape your life and the life that you end up living. So focus on the potential of outcomes and the impact of your actions, and keep your mind focused on the bigger picture. Don't get bogged down in those necessary tasks that we know we need to achieve those and create those opportunities.
I love that so much, being really intentional about where you're prioritizing your mindset. And I'm such a huge proponent of reframing things, right? Taking it from the negative light and really focusing on the positive. I think that's such a critical skill for really any entrepreneur nonetheless, but of course, just anyone out there. Everyone has to make decisions. So being able to reframe all of those little things, I think it can be such a small thing, but it's so impactful when it comes to looking at long-term, how are those decisions impacting your life? Dawn, let's go ahead and pass it to you, because your work really is all about shifting self-image, right? So can you speak to the idea of reprogramming your minds for positive thoughts and how that impacts our emotions?
Oh, thanks, Crystal. Yes, absolutely. Remembering, I think it's so important when we really understand, I think it helps us to understand that the brain is like a computer, right? So it's been programmed from experiences, from life, from what we were taught, from before we were even born. I think the most fascinating thing is that we grew in another human being that impacts us, right? That programming starts so long ago. And so understanding that a lot of the beliefs and things that we think aren't ours, or we think they're ours, but they were given to us. And it's really up to us to decide, what do I want? What's mine? And what do I want to let go of? Because whatever we believe, whatever that program is just based on a thought that we've thought, right? A thought that we keep feeding and we keep thinking over and over, like a belief. Like I believe, a very important story that people tell themselves is about money and abundance. I believe money's hard to get, right? Some people have that story. Well, that's a belief. And a belief is a thought we think over and over and over again. So you've programmed your mind to believe that. what if we can change the story and believe something else? And so remembering that the brain is wired, right? Neural pathways form. And if we think about neural pathways form and create a story, a thought pattern, a belief pattern, a feeling pattern, even in the body, and there's a scientific term that's called pruning, right? If we don't feed these thought patterns anymore, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm lonely, I'm no good, I'm not enough. If we don't feed those thought patterns, they prune away, they starve. And then we start to reprogram with new beliefs and thought patterns, and we create new wiring in the brain. I am enough, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm abundant, I'm worthy. And that's that reprogramming for good. And it creates the new story. And then we can live into that new story.
So good. It really is all about that nurturing, right? What are these thoughts and these feelings that you're nurturing? Wherever you're directing that energy towards, that's what's going to end up amplifying and compounding, right? And you're really starting to kind of dilute all of those negative thoughts that, you know, previously may have been at the forefront of everything it was that you were doing. I love that insight. So 𝘄𝗶𝘁, let's go ahead and pass it to you. I mean, we've just heard from Dawn so much about being positive, but you know, it's easier said than done, right? And there's going to be those times where there's still those feelings of anger or other negative emotions that feel like we're stuck in that place. We're not able to get rid of it as much as we would like. So how can we kind of navigate our way to achieving this positive mindset without falling into what some may say is toxic positivity?
Yeah, thanks so much, Crystal. What I love about this, especially the time of year we're in right now, there is this notion like you have to be happy. So what ends up happening is we take all the actual feelings we have, maybe it's sadness, maybe it's, as you were saying, anger or unworthiness that Dawn was referring to. We take it and we put it in the dark. We put it over in the shadow. But what that ends up doing is it's still running our program, as Dawn was mentioning, like it's sitting in our subconscious and it's still being fed. There's this undercurrent that ends up coming out in all aspects of your life, where when you don't look at the shadow, you don't put light on it, it sits there and it starts to weigh you down. So an example would be, especially since it's this time of year, I'm so happy it's Christmas. I'm loving the fact that I'm going to see my family. I'm loving that I'm giving. And all the time, when you're in the quiet moments of your day, you feel the sadness, but you don't want to allow that to be expressed. But here's the thing. The moment you shed light on those feelings, you bring awareness to them. And then you get to sit in an empowered state and decide, okay, so I'm feeling sad right now. And you get to ask yourself questions such as, why am I feeling sad? Oh, because I didn't eat today, or maybe I haven't moved my body enough today. So wonderful. Next question. What does my body need? Does it need to move? Does it need to be fed? Right. And so by shining the light on your true emotions, how you're actually feeling, as Dawn was saying, like the undercurrent of that's there, you bringing awareness to that, you get to change the story. So instead of having toxic positivity and pretending, basically, is what's happening at that point, you get to stand in your authenticity. Say, you know what? I'm not feeling 100% today, but here's what I get to do about it. Right. And I think that helps in all facets of your life, in business especially, because, you know, it's like a roller coaster ride sometimes when you're an entrepreneur and you want to acknowledge those emotions instead of repressing them. Because when we repress it, energy doesn't go anywhere. It becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. And then that's when you feel like you want to burn it all down and go live in the woods. Right. So instead of going to that extreme, just start by bringing awareness to it. Acknowledge the fact that you're not 100% today, and then give yourself what you need.
Yeah, it really is so important to be mindful that it's not about turning a blind eye to those things, right? You're not going to find any progress if you're just allowing it to sit there. And as you said, just get heavier and heavier, thinking by not addressing it, you'll move past it, but it's still going to be there. It's really about bringing that self-awareness, as you mentioned, so that you can reach a self-acceptance where you're accepting all of you, where you're
Yeah.
acknowledging all of your feelings and your emotions as you go through this journey that's going to be full of ups and downs, no matter how much work you do on yourself, right? But we do need to address those shadows and shine light on it and really work to accept ourselves as whole. So I love that. Thank you so much, Tali. Dr. Sola, let's go ahead and pass it back to you. Can you speak also on the impact of negative thought patterns and the impact that they can have on us? Part of your work is also dealing with how to take women out of burnout, right? So how can we ensure all these negative thoughts that might be coming through our minds aren't leading us to that path of burnout?
Absolutely. There is a connection between our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior. So it is very, very important to understand where our negative thought patterns are coming from. And it ties into the socialization that we talked about earlier, where we have internalized certain messages. And those messages could potentially be impacting our thoughts, which impact our emotion and then impact our subsequent behavior. So one thing that I tell my clients is when you have a negative thought, the idea is to take the thought out of your brain and put that thought on paper. And when we put that thought down on paper, it's very easy for us sometimes to see the connection to what we have been taught. So for example, if it's like the negative thought of, I should never say no, is what we're having, then people are able to make the connection that it is based on the way I have been taught, that I should always be present for others. I should never say no. And as a result, what is the emotion behind that? So maybe the emotion is anger, maybe it's anxiety. It could be a variety of emotions, and then it impacts your behavior. So when you are trying to say no, you feel guilty, and then you don't say no, and then you overwhelm yourself. So that's why it's really important for us to start to challenge those thoughts. And the best way to do that is to have a counter thought. What is a counter thought to I can't say no? The very popular one is I can say not right now. And that's okay. And the idea is to say that to yourself over and over again when you're in a calm body, so that your body begins to internalize that message as well. So that when you do say no, you feel good about that. You no longer have that feeling of guilt associated with it because you've challenged that negative thought process and the way that you've internalized the message.
I really love that tip of writing it down, those negative thoughts. That really allows us to make it a tangible thing, right? It's something that we're being forced to face because now it's written in paper, just looking back at us, and we're taking the time to address it. Let's go ahead and move to Kylie. We've been talking a lot about, shifting your mindset and really how you're addressing your thoughts and your both positive and negative thoughts. But let's start going into the action part of it, right? Because at the end of this panel, we want the people listening to really start taking action to make those decisions that they might have been putting off because of all of these negative thoughts, these fears, these things that we've been conditioned to feel. So Kylie, what advice do you have for people that might be listening that do want to shift their mindset when it comes to decision making and actually getting to that point of taking action? You're muted, Kylie.
There we go. Not muting ourselves again. Apologies, everybody. I was just saying, my first piece of advice is start by becoming crystal clear about what your goals are and what you want to achieve. But most importantly, what's the why behind your goals? Because it's the why, the reason why we're setting those goals, that will motivate us and propel us forward to continue, doing the things we need to do and taking the action to achieve those goals. So that would be my first piece of advice. But I always say to my clients, progress over perfection. Just take the steps. So action always over inaction. Progress over perfection. Focus on that. Focus on just even the baby steps every single day that are going to get you closer to your goals, rather than focusing always on the big goal or the long-term goal. And I also say very often that nothing changes if nothing changes. So that action is better than doing nothing at all. The nothing at all is always going to make you feel worse, and it will impact your confidence over time. So understand that action results in motivation, not the other way around. That's something that I think as human beings, we often think, I need to feel motivated. I need to feel motivated before I do something and take action. Well, actually, we need to understand that action results in motivation. So you have to start to feel motivated and then to continue taking action. Establishing daily routines and establishing those daily habits is really critical to lead you to achieving the goals that you want to achieve. But another really key thing is that language matters, and that positive language and those positive affirmations, but the way we talk to ourselves when it comes to setting our goals and pursuing our goals is really critical. So beginning each day with positive affirmations or just that self-talk to reinforce our capability to make sound decisions and take effective action, that's really powerful. So some of those phrases might be things like, I trust my decisions. I'm confident in my ability to take action. Whether saying it as you're getting ready for work or you're doing it as part of your, morning routine and journaling, that's really powerful for setting up your day and getting your mind into that growth mindset, that positive mindset, to then create a positive mental environment for taking action. The other thing that I'd say, and all of the speakers, we've all talked about this today, is really focusing on reframing those negative thoughts. So challenge and reframe negative thoughts that might be hindering your decision making. Instead of looking for reasons why you shouldn't take action, which is typically what we do, we also call them excuses, have a look at trying to find evidence to why you believe you might fail, because that's going to be the harder part. Usually we like to find the excuses not to take action, but finding evidence for why we shouldn't take action, that's usually the thing that might help to shift your mindset as well. So instead of focusing on potential failures, rephrase those things in a positive light. So for example, shifting from what if I fail, which is something I hear all the time, what if I fail? And you think, well, maybe instead of focusing on what if you fail, what if you don't? What can I learn from this experience? What if I'm a huge success? So reframing those thoughts that are stopping you from taking action. And then a couple of other things would be setting realistic goals or SMART goals. So breaking your goals down into smaller, achievable tasks, chunk them down so that you're not overwhelmed by this giant goal. And that's not only, making the decision-making process more manageable, but it also provides a sense of accomplishment with every single step reinforcing that positive mindset. So there's some things that I would advise or suggest that people focus on, especially as we move into a new year.
There are so many things in what you just said that I heavily resonate with. That progress over perfection, I know that was something that personally that I had to really work on. Being a Virgo, I'm a natural perfectionist, and even though I imagined myself really going into business ever since I was in high school, I had to get over that hump of needing everything to be perfect. And one of my biggest learnings was what you just said, that you really do need to just start taking action, and the momentum is going to start building from there. And also always making sure to come back to your why, right? Another a mantra that I love to kind of remind myself when that doubt starts creeping in, or the ideas of perfectionism, really is that my purpose is so much greater than any of my fears. And thinking that I have the opportunity to make such an impact And it's not worth it to allow these minor little thoughts to prevent that impact from being made. So reframing the failure as well, I think that's something that I learned pretty quickly on and was part of my mindset journey, making sure that I essentially just removed failure from my vocabulary. I don't even look at anything as a failure because, like I said earlier, reframing, I think, is such a critical skill that any woman needs to have, and shifting it to recognizing that the fact that you took an action, there's so much opportunity to be learned from that action. And the fact that you're learning something completely contradicts this thought that you have in your mind that what you did was a failure. It's not a failure because you're improving from it, right? You're learning from it. Dawn, I am curious your thoughts on this. So what about you? What do you think comes first when it comes to taking action and then feeling empowered? What is that timeline looking like, and how can you break that down for us?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts right now. This is great conversation. I love it. I love it. One thing, if we want lasting, positive change, we have to get our feelings involved. We have to feel it, right? We have to feel the joy, the excitement, the passion in the action. So inspired, I call it inspired action. I teach my clients, take inspired action. Can we get inspired? Like the other ladies were saying, can we infuse inspiration into the action we're going to take? You know, not from fear, but from a place of, well, what if I succeed? Inspiration, take that first step. Feelings are the key. That's what I've been taught. That's what I've learned. That's what I've experienced. That's what I see happening with my clients. We have to feel it and find a nugget to hold on to, right? We may go from, I'm not sure. We can't go from here to I'm successful and I'm thriving and I'm like, right? We have to take little steps along the way. So just, I'm capable. I can do this. I'm okay. I've got it. You know, when we take that step, but we have to feel, right? Words are empty without the emotion. So if we're saying, I've got this, we're using our affirmations, our mantras. I teach that. I tell people put sticky notes on the mirror because you have to remind yourself to say them, right? We forget. Put those reminders. When you read the words, feel it. What does it feel like if I felt like I was okay? What would it feel like if I took that step? And so feeling it will fuel that change, will fuel the action. So this is what I teach. We don't want quick fixes. We want lasting, positive change. So fuel it with your emotions so that you create the change that you want to have that sustainable.
Thank you, Dawn. And I just want to just shift everyone's attention to the chat really quick because Crystal said, I want realness over perfection. There was a lot of comments about, yes, imperfection connects, progress, not perfection. I love that so much. And I think we're kind of all on that consensus here, right? That perfection really is going to stunt our growth. And it's all about showing up and having grace with ourselves. For anyone that is tuned in, we're a little more than halfway, but continue to drop comments and questions in the chat so that we can address them and really help you make the decisions that you are hoping to make in your life. But other than that, we'll go ahead and continue on with this amazing conversation. So 𝘄𝗶𝘁, you work with women a lot about getting them to that place of unapologetic empowerment. And we've talked about, you know, when those thoughts of fear start creeping in and people start asking themselves, what if this disrupts my lifestyle? Or worse, like, what if this decision that I'm making makes people be angry with me? I'm sure that you've worked with women or individuals that have had these questions that they've brought to your attention. And this is what's often keeping them stuck and leading them to indecision. So what advice do you have for the people that are coming to you with these fears and these questions?
Yeah, no, you know, the thing is, our mind is fascinating, right? We have our conscious mind, actually the weakest part of our mind, only 5 to 10% power. Our subconscious mind, that's the boss. 90 to 95% of who we are, who we be, how we act, our behaviors, our emotions, like Dawn is talking about, all sits in our subconscious. And this is another aspect of how I mentor, how I suggest people start shifting. And it's really, again, turning the light on. People are accustomed to how you have been, whether it was right or wrong, and I use air quotes intentionally here. You've trained people to behave with you in a certain manner, whether it's building you up or breaking you down, because you've allowed it for so long. And I know that so Dawn is saying that 95% of the time we're on autopilot. And because we've trained people to behave this way with us, guess what? You get to retrain others as you retrain yourself. Really stepping into this question of, okay, well, what if it does disrupt my lifestyle? Turn it into a game. That is one of my favorite things to do personally, teaching my clients and anyone listening. How can you turn that into a game? Because remember, when we were children, we learned to crawl, then walk, then run. We didn't just decide one day that we're going to start running. You taught yourself these things. I mean, you know what I mean when I say we are taught these things. You get to teach yourself again. So especially for women, we have been taught to not take up space. So as you start to put your foot down and to say, hey, I'm here, this is how I feel, this is what I want, really starting to claim your desires. It makes everybody uncomfortable because they're not used to it. But just like when we were children and we learned to start walking, we weren't used to that either, right? And once you shift it into a game, okay, so what if they get a little uncomfortable? Get curious. What would you actually do? That empowered version of you would be like, maybe they'll get upset, but I can communicate what is happening. I can communicate, hey, this is what I'm working towards, whether it be your health, whether it be your overall lifestyle, whether it be in business. If you're aiming for a goal, communicate it. Because so often we think like our partners, our families, our friends, colleagues, they can read our mind. I know I'm guilty of it. When I have an idea in my mind, I start moving with such momentum that I can forget to tell the people around me what's happening. Not because I'm trying to not include them, but I've got so many ideas, so much excitement that I'm going. Communication is key, and bringing with it your emotional intelligence. We're talking about putting emotion into something, shifting it from, oh my God, what if they do leave, or what if they say something mean? What are you going to do about it? You get to feel the emotions and continue one step at a time. And I think that's another really important topic. We look at our goals and they're so big that sometimes that causes your stuckness. You're like, oh my God, my goal is so big. How am I going to get there? What am I going to do? All these questions start to come in. And when you can't answer it right away, doubt creeps in. So reverse engineer it. What's the next best step? No matter what you're facing, what's the next best step? What's the next step that I can take today? What's the next step I'm comfortable taking? So starting to break it down and really being okay with it, because change is inevitable. What we can control is how we view it. So starting to put your ideas into this perspective. And that's why I think turning it into a game is so fun, because you take the stress off of it. You let your mind, like the conscious mind, kind of sit to the sideline and really tap into your subconscious, because it's fun. And now you're learning a new behavior. So that's my opinion. I'd love to hear any of the other ladies, like when you're thinking about creating or getting unstuck, what are some ways that you, like I approach it as a game, like, well, how do you guys approach it?
If anyone wants to take over, feel free to jump in. I was actually going to pose a question to the group too, because I love what you were saying, 𝘄𝗏𝗃, really about opening up that communication and putting a fun twist on the challenge. It's already a challenge to make the decision, right? But kind of putting a fun twist on it, right? And breaking it down so it's a little bit more digestible. Do any of you ladies want to kind of add to what 𝘄𝗏𝗃 was saying?
I completely agree with you, 𝘄𝗏𝗃, and I talk about that similar things, and it's true with conversations. Even deciding to have a conversation can be so overwhelming for people, and it's because I believe it's because they already are trying to consider the outcome. Like, they already want to know how it's going to play out, and I think detaching ourselves from what has to happen or knowing the future, knowing the outcome, I think that that is one way to make it a little less overwhelming to make a decision. It's just you just have to decide to start. Like you said, what's the next best step? I don't have to have all the answers. I don't need to know the end, which is an uncomfortable feeling, and we let those feelings come up and not repress them, and that's how we work through it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Does anyone else want to chime in?
I love. Go ahead, Dr. Sola. You first.
Thank you. One thing I was going to say in listening to all you ladies is one of my favorite saying is, be careful what you say to yourself because your mind is listening. And the idea of very positive affirmations that we say to ourselves, and the whole idea of being in a calm body. And I always go back to calm body because the idea is that when your body is calm, it's more likely to take in the message that you're saying. But if you are maybe feeling very elevated or very anxious, you're not making the connection between the body and the mind. So getting the body calm and then saying the positive affirmations. And also one thing that I absolutely love when we're working with, our goals or decisions we need to make is a circle of control. And the circle of control consists of 3 circles. So there's a circle of what you can control, what you cannot control, and what you can influence. And sometimes just making a decision where it's like, this is beyond my control. It is what it is for right now. Let me focus my energy on what it is that I can control. And the energy goes there. So I think the circle of control is very powerful in terms of helping us move forward so we know where to put our energy. And most importantly, just being very mindful of the things that we're saying to ourselves every single day, because the mind listens, the mind takes it in, and then that can impact the decisions that we are trying to change.
And Dawn, I think you also wanted to add in a few comments there.
Sure. Yeah. I'm remembering a statement my coach said to me. This is his quote, and it's pretty in your face, but here it is. We're the biggest problem we'll ever have, and we're the only solution. And so oftentimes we get ourselves in the way. We're in our own way. And with that too, we make this problem that we have or a decision we have so big, right? So big. It's like, make it small. Like, we are more worthy, we're smarter, we can be happier, healthier than any problem that shows up, right? So make that problem small, that decision small, like, I got this, like in that self-talk, right? That Dr. Sola was saying, I've got this, because your body's listening, your cells are listening, and decide, like, I'm getting myself out of the way. What's the best here, right? That next best step. I love that. I say that to my clients. Just take that breath, get into your body, take a breath. What's my next best step? If I get myself out of the way, how can this benefit not only me, but others, and create solutions and more joy and more fun and more laughter? Just move in that direction. So being very aware of the direction you want to move in.
Yes, to that self-awareness. And going back to the communication piece, I think it really is so important to open the floor to that communication and really not only, focus on how you're communicating with yourself, but with everyone around you. And when you're reaching those points where you are having to make those decisions, But I have another question that I want to kind of just pose to the group. What if the people that you are communicating with aren't being receptive to these decisions that you're wanting to make, and you're not feeling the support that you would hope to receive? I don't know if any of you ladies have gone through it. I'm sure we all have at some point, but how do we move forward from there? Does anyone want to take that question on?
Go ahead, Chris.
Real quick, it just, when you ask that question, it makes me think of our parents, and we didn't get to choose our parents, and or how our parents treated us. And there's a lot of work, maybe people have heard about inner child work, and the idea is that we can build that support. We can be our biggest cheerleaders. Like, we're not necessarily, our environment might not be totally supportive to our dreams, but doing the work, we can find what we need inside of us.
On the back end of that too, you know, I've mentored so many women, and they're like, but my husband doesn't support me, my family doesn't support me. And what I always am curious is, are you going to their job and saying, good job, you've got this? No, that's their job. This is your job. You get to have your own back. And I think the more self-awareness you bring into it, you start to understand that even though it's your business, it's still your job. Like, you are working it, right? If you are going and cheerleading in someone else's space, it doesn't make sense to have that. In my mind, it doesn't always make sense to have that expectation of them to come into your space and cheerlead you on. That's part of being empowered and being self-led, saying that, okay, this is where I'm going, and I'm going to self-support myself. Now, of course, there's times where we need someone to go and be like, hey, here's what's happening, and I don't know how I feel about this. That's what mentorship is for. And it's a fabulous space for that, because like here, we're in a group of like-minded people. When you're building a business, and I'll keep it for business for this moment, it can feel lonely, because you wake up, you think about your business, you're eating, you're thinking about your business. You could be taking a shower, you're probably still thinking about your business. And it's not because you have to, you just have such a passion for it and such a drive for it. It becomes part of your life. So I think one of the biggest ways, have your own back and bring awareness to the parts of you that maybe need a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more TLC. If your confidence is a little bit wavering, how can you feel more confident? If you feel like, oh man, my self-worth is coming up into play, one of the greatest tricks of building your self-worth, follow through and keep the promise you made to yourself. Even if it's going to the gym, because you know that moving your body makes you feel so much more confident in your business, go to the gym. Or if you can't go to the gym, go for a 30-minute walk. Again, it's that next best step. So I love the question, but we also have to step into our power and say, I've got this, I'm going to do it. And here's everyone, you get to come along with me, but no matter what, I'm going forward. And you have your own back in the process.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
For me personally, I definitely think there's two sides of the coin, right? When you're starting to communicate what it is that you're hoping to change your life into, and the direction that you're hoping to go into, the lack of support could simply be a lack of understanding, right? It doesn't mean that they don't support you in whatever it is that you're hoping to achieve. But then on the other side of that coin, maybe you're right. Maybe the support isn't there, but it's okay, because your vision is not for everyone. You are not for everyone. And that's something that we all kind of have to work to accept. And just because that one person or a few people don't understand or don't believe in your vision and your dreams, it doesn't invalidate it, right? That shouldn't be reason enough to stop pursuing it and start doubting yourself.
Right.
Crystal, while we're wrapping it up, we have a few more minutes here, but like we said in the beginning of this panel, we really want to start embracing the gray areas, right? And really move away from this black and white thinking. And we want to have everyone leave here with actionable steps that they can take. So moving forward, once this panel is over, what can our viewers today start doing to really identify maybe areas in their life and start being really prepared of where black and white thinking might be a little bit more prominent and how they can start slowly moving away from that?
Sure. And I took a couple of notes throughout because we've made reference to a lot of black and white thinking throughout this hour. And when we're talking in absolutes, if you find yourself talking in absolutes, like I always do this, or I never can do that, or I have to do this, even having to do something is a form of an absolute. W- Starting to recognize it and thinking about it as a scale from like 0 to 100. I think numerically it might be easier to articulate. So 0 to 100, 0 is black, 100 is white. And it's like, we talked about saying yes or no. Yes would be at 100, no would be at 0. Are those the only two options? Like, there's 99 numbers between 0 and 100. Does the answer lie somewhere in the middle there? As Chitali just mentioned, going to the gym, following through on your promises. Your promise may be to go to the gym, and there might be a real obstacle that you can't go to the gym. So going to the gym is 100, not going to the gym is at 0. But going for a 30-minute walk lies in the middle area. So recognizing that the only answers to a situation or a question is not 0 or 100. It's not black or white. It's not all or nothing. And one last thing, is that two things can be true at the same time. So we might not want to do something because we don't want to upset the person, but two things can be true at the same time. We can still need to say no, and it might hurt their feelings, but that doesn't mean we can't say no. It's like we have learning to embrace more than just all or nothing, 0 or 100, black and white, yes or no. If anyone wants to add any other tips that they specifically use, I think that the scale can be really helpful.
I was thinking of, as you were saying that, Crystal, I was thinking of dialectical thinking. And dialectical thinking is balanced thinking, meaning that two things can be true. So one thing I tell my clients is it's an and world, A-N-D, not an or world. And to always remember that, just like you were using the numbers, I love that analogy to realize that there's other options and sometimes two things can be true. So I think a quick example for me is before having children, I used to travel a lot. And once I had kids, I thought, oh, now you can't travel. You always have to be available. And I realized it's not one or the other. What is the or here? And it's like I can be present for my children and I can travel, and trying to figure out what does that balance look like? Because when we're dialectical thinkers, research has shown that we have less anxiety, less emotional distress, less depression, because we realize that multiple things can be true and we're open to finding out what exactly that balance looks like.
Yes, I love the power of ands, and I'm getting all of those comments in the chat also that are reiterating that thought. Kylie, did you have any last minute thoughts that you also wanted to chime in there?
I'm reading the chat as well as the other ladies have been speaking, and just appreciating that the process of change and transformation. We talked about progress over perfection, but Valerie's just made such a great point in the chat, saying that change and transformation, it can be clumsy. It often is, right? It's imperfect. We're human beings, we're clumsy and we're messy at times, and change and transformation is messy as well. So it's just embracing those things, and that, like the ladies were saying, moving away from that black and white thinking, and embracing, you know, the colorful shades of gray, if you like, and acknowledging that the change doesn't always equate to loss of things that we love, or the people around us, even if they don't agree with the changes we're making in the direction we may be heading in. It doesn't need to equate in the loss of those things or those people in our lives, and it certainly doesn't have to be perfect. And that's probably what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you, Kylie. And yes, I also saw that comment from Valerie. Messy action is action, and you absolutely should be so proud of yourself for even allowing yourself to take that action, regardless of what it looks like. It's just going to keep looking more and more beautiful, more and more brighter as you continue on. Wow, what an incredible panel this has been. We are at 12 o'clock on the mark, and well, wherever I am. I'm over here in California. I know we're kind of all across the globe. So it has been such a joy hosting this panel with all of you amazing ladies. Your passion is so apparent, and it's so clear that we really do have a common mission here amongst all of our panelists, that we're here to just remind everyone that's tuning in today, and remind everyone that we're coming across on a daily basis, that you really do have the power to make your own decisions and to live a life that feels aligned to you, that feels good to you. So if you loved what you heard and you want to hear more from these women, be sure to register for the Women Thrive Summit, which is taking place in March 2024. I am going to add all of the links in the chat now. And of course, since that's a few months away, but I'm sure all of you guys listening are itching to connect with these women sooner than that. Don't feel like you need to wait till March. Those links are also going to be in the chat, so make sure you are reaching out to them, whether it's via their website, their social media. Obviously, these ladies are wonderful and more than willing to have that conversation with you and help you live your best life. Again, thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to everyone that is tuned in. Thank you to Ray and Women Thrive Media. Ray, are you still on? Did you want to jump on and add any last minute comments? I'm not sure if she's able to jump on.
While we're waiting, I'd love to say thank you, Crystal, for leading the way for us today and hosting all of us. This has been really fun.
It has been so much fun. I'm not sure if Ray is still joining us, so no worries at all. We're not going to hold you all. Again, stay connected with us, register for the summit, and we will see you all in March. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye-bye.